Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Fat Loss Game podcast with your hosts, Viv and Dee. I am so excited to be here recording because I actually woke up this morning and I felt very nauseous and I threw up. And Dee was like, "Are you pregnant?" And I was like, I sure as hell hope not. But we're here. I am not throwing up. Hopefully, I don't throw up on my computer. Fingers crossed. But in today's episode, we are talking all about how your friends and family can negatively impact your health and screw up your weight loss progress, and how to cut out toxic friend and family members. Now, Dee, I feel like you are the king of cutting people out of your life. If somebody is negatively impacting your mental health, you are ruthless in cutting them out. Now, I want to know who, when you were a kid, who was the first person in your life that you ever completely cut out cold turkey? Someone who was important to you, and why?
Welcome, family. Thank you for joining us. The first person who was the most important to me that I cut off was my mother.
Dude, that is like some gangster shit right there. Okay, why did you cut her out, and how old are you?
I was about 15. She's a very strong mom. She's a very strong, independent, single mom. And I was also a strong, independent young man. And I was the oldest. And at some point, she would say to me, "If you don't like the way I do things in my house, you can get out." And one day I took her up on it. Actually, I took her up on it a few times. Every time I started walking out grabbing my stuff, she would go, "Wait, where are you going?" And I would leave. A few times I would just leave and go and stay in my car for a couple of days, and she'd get me to come back, and then we'll start all over again. But
you lived in your car?
Yeah.
Where did you shower? How'd you eat?
Wow. Okay. Shower, there was no showering going on. I guess I would I would get to figure that out. Now, if you want to talk about eating, going back before that, before 15, I would run away from home when things got bad, and I would get to go to the grocery store, walk around, and as a kid, and just eat food, and then just leave. And no one ever questions a kid.
You were in the aisle, and you were like, "Ooh, let me open this box of Oreos, grab a few, and there's the lunch." Is that literally what you would do?
You know, my thing was pecan pie at the grocery store.
But you need a fork for that.
No, I didn't. It was a little small pecan pies they had.
Oh, so you didn't?
I would open them and walk around the grocery store and just eat them, and then put them away, throw them in the trash in the grocery store, and just walk out.
Were they individually packaged?
They were, yes.
Okay, so you didn't take a whole, you didn't cut out a piece of pie and eat it. It was more convenient than that, right?
Right. It was just unfold the wrapper, start eating like a candy bar.
Okay, so you've had practice cutting people out of your life since you were 15. Do you remember what it was that was the kicker when you were 15, or does that not?
I think the sub practice happened before 15, but when 15 was just so much easier because I had to run away so many times as a kid. I was a very troubled child. So, what was your question again?
I was going to say, do you remember what it was at 15 that made you the last straw of, "I'm going to go live in my freaking car and eat food out of the grocery store"?
I think my mother and I got into a verbal confrontation, and my mom is very aggressive. I think she grabbed a baby walker and threw it at me. And
okay, but I want to know about what? I don't want why.
Oh, it was of course something I did, I'm sure, but I most of the time was just talking back under my breath in some way. I would probably say something.
Back talk.
Yeah, back talk.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not manageable.
You're sassy.
That's why I've been an entrepreneur my entire life, because I cannot work for anyone. I can't take orders.
You're not good at respecting authority.
I am not at all. It's just not my thing. I don't play well with others. I don't play well under others.
That's totally fair. Okay, so yeah, I mean, you've had practice cutting people out. And would you say your tolerance for bullshit is low or high?
I have no tolerance for bullshit whatsoever.
Have you always been like that?
I think I have always been this way, but there are times when I choose to care, and when I choose to care, it makes it a little harder to cut someone off. But hell, after I cut my mom off that one time, uh, it was like anybody can get some. That was the most challenging thing I've ever had to do in my life. I mean, we've gotten to it many times over life. We're great now, but we both know that we have very strong personalities, and we can see it kind of going there. And we have to just kind of sit back a little bit, be cool, and just talk without pushing the other person. Yeah.
I think that's a great story because I'm totally the opposite. Whereas, like, growing up, I was so scared of authority. I totally listened to authority. I have a lot of guilt. And I think a lot of women that me and you work with actually fall under this, like, personality trait I've noticed. But it's like I'm literally the spitting, it's not even a word, but I'm like the opposite of you, where I am so scared to like do the wrong thing, upset people. Whereas for you, it's like, it's so easy for you to have zero tolerance for bullshit, where I will put up with a lot of bullshit. I've definitely gotten better as I've met you. And I think our personalities have merged in that way. But it's funny because I'm totally the opposite. And what I have learned, especially with my eating habits, is that because I'm so good at listening to other people and not listening to myself, there's a lot of like resentment and guilt and shame and just all these negative emotions that are built up. And that has been a huge driver of my emotional eating and my emotional binge alcohol drinking, which was a huge problem for me for most of my life growing up. I think whether it's emotional eating or emotional drinking, I think they all stem from the same issue. I don't really see them as different. They're just different outlets for your emotions. Some people drink, some people do drugs, some people eat, some people do Xanax or whatever, or smoke marijuana. Like, it's all the same though. It's just different outlets. But anyways, so why I think that I've had much more issues with emotional, like doing unhealthy emotional habits, whereas you haven't, is because you are good at not tolerating shit that doesn't work for you. And because of that, you don't have all these built up, oh my gosh, like I'm not living my life for me, or like I feel repressed, because you don't feel repressed because you aren't repressed. Whereas for me, it's like I don't do anything for myself. This is not the case as much anymore, but it's like I don't do things for myself. I don't take care of myself. I take care of other people before me. I put other people before me, and then I don't feel like I'm living a life that is anything of what I want it to look like. So it's so interesting because as I've met you, you are, as he sounds ruthless, right? But he is one of the happiest, most positive people I have ever met. And I genuinely believe it's because you don't do things you don't want to do. You do things out of the goodness of your heart, but never out of guilt, never out of shame, and never out of fear. And I think when we do things out of guilt, shame, and fear, and there are things that we don't genuinely want to do, we then go to unhealthy habits to let out our stressed out emotions.
Very well said. Now, I wasn't always there. I had to fight my way to get to that point, to start letting go of things and walk away from situations that were not working for me.
But I feel like you've always, you know what? I feel like you did that as a kid.
Yes.
But then you got lost.
Yeah.
In your 30s.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So just so people know, how old were you when you got married?
Gosh, let's just say late 20s.
Okay, so he was married for 10 years, and he got married in his late 20s to a woman who I would say is like someone who's just like you.
Yeah, she's very strong, very independent.
Doesn't take bullshit.
Yes. Oh yeah, she's the first woman that ever called me on my shit in my life.
And what I think is so interesting is that you finally allowed that, in a sense.
I did, and I wouldn't go back and take it back because it actually made me 1,000 times better, man.
So, like, what is interesting is our dynamic is that he is very strong and I'm much more flexible. And you need someone to be flexible in a relationship. You can't have two, like, I'm strong for sure, but I'm willing to put my ego aside and like apologize and like speak my feelings and be vulnerable. And that allows him to open up. But if you have two strong people who are trying to put their ego first, it's just not going to work. But that is what your marriage sounded like. And I'm just wondering how you did, because you were married for 10 years. How did you do that for 10 years where you were constantly butting heads with basically your spinning image? Why did you let that in your life at that time? Or did you lose confidence in yourself?
It was a point in my life when I allowed it. I chose to just go with the flow. And for many years, I was not myself anymore.
But why? I'm just like, did something trigger it where you're like, oh, you know what? Maybe I need something different?
Well, someone had to take the back seat in some way. As an illusionary, I took the back seat when I didn't really take the back seat. Does that make sense? In other words, someone had to allow a bunch of things to be said and done and kind of just watch without saying much and just model behavior. So I learned how to kind of model behavior then more than talking about it.
But why?
Peace. The number one thing I've always prioritized, which is why I end up cutting people off fast, is because I wanted the peace. Sometimes you have to prioritize peace over being right. And in that part of my life, that's how I handle things.
Okay, but so here's the thing that just confuses me. You're good at cutting people off who bring drama into your life.
Yeah.
Your ex-wife brought drama into your life instantly. Why? Your normal pattern is cut this person off, right? I think this is, and why I'm bringing this up, if you guys are wondering why I'm like harping on this, is because it's the one area where you didn't choose yourself. You sacrificed who you are, what you believe in for another person, which is my issue. And I'm sure a lot of people who are listening. So it's like the one time in your life that you, I guess, faltered, where you were like, I'm actually going, you could have walked away. Yeah. You should have walked away, but you didn't. You pulled a Viv.
It's funny. All of my guy friends told me exactly what you're saying right now during that time.
And so there's a reason. Maybe there's a quality that she had where you thought, okay, this person, even though they bring so much shit into my life, I'm not going to find this quality again, so I'm willing to put up with her shit. That's what I think what happened, but I don't know what that quality is.
The reward was a lot bigger than the little bit of peace that I was losing.
So what positive benefits did she bring into your life that made you want to put up with all the crap that came with it?
She made me grow to a place I never thought I could ever grow as a man.
Elaborate. That's fascinating.
I became a...
Who were you before, and then who were you after you met her?
I was making this such. I was doing really well in my life. A lot of peace. Doing half days in entrepreneurship. I was just doing very well.
How much are you making? Well. I want to know.
I was doing about $300K. Let's just say like a year when I met her easily.
So
and
high 20s, 300,000 a year.
Yeah. Right. So when I met her, I was kind of like bragging to her, like, my life is this, my life is that. I'm doing $300K a year. I don't really need you. You're lucky to be having me. And she was the first woman that just kind of looked at me and just laughed at me.
She's like, 300,000 a year. That's like
and I'm
pennies.
telling her mother this story, and her mother just laughed at me. And then her mom was like, just looked at her and she said, "Don't worry, Mom. He'll be okay. He has ambition. I'm going to work with him." In other words, like, my $300K was nothing. She had a billionaire mentality, and all her friends in her circle they ran that way, which she pushed me into becoming a better man, and mentally, eventually, I got that billionaire mentality.
I love it.
I'm trying to say that as humble as possible.
So again, why I bring this up is because it's important to understand we don't just like let people into our lives for no reason. We don't put up with toxic people for no reason. There is some benefit. So if you're ever thinking, why are you bad at setting boundaries? It's not for no reason. There's a reason that I'm bad at setting boundaries, or I was, and maybe you are if you're listening and you can relate. It's because there's a benefit to that relationship. And it's not until the cost outweighs the benefit of the relationship where you are willing to cut them off. So, you eventually got divorced because the benefit that you got from the relationship was no longer enough to keep you to have you stay. The pain of, maybe not being able to be yourself or not having harmony in your relationship finally was higher than the benefit of having a partner that pushed you to grow, right? So for me, I know that in my relationships, I am an introvert and I don't have many friends. And so what's tough for me is that every friend that I do have, it's like you overvalue that friendship because you have a scarcity mindset. And so even though this person in your life doesn't influence you in a positive way, you're scared to lose them because you're like, I don't know when I'm going to have to find another friend that's as close as I am with this person who I can trust, who I can just go to their house whenever. That's how I felt. Even with family members, maybe there's a benefit of, okay, well, yeah, my mom is toxic, but she does all these things for me. And so if I cut her out, I'm going to lose all these benefits. Or even just the fear or shame or guilt of like, what are people going to say if I cut this person out? That can be enough to make you not want to do it, even though that person's causing you a lot of pain, right? So I want to first explain, why do we allow toxic people in our lives, and why can't we just turn our emotions off and just cut them out? Because at some point, there is a cost benefit that we do subconsciously, but it is there. So for example, when you're 15 and you cut your mom out, I'm sure if there was enough benefits that she was giving you, you wouldn't have left. But I'm sure in your mind it was like, other than a roof over my head, which maybe you didn't really value. You're like, living in my car isn't that big of a deal. The pain of leaving wasn't that high for you, so it was easier to make those decisions, right? And so we're coming back to this topic of how your friends and family can screw with your weight loss progress or your health. But if you don't value your health enough to cut out these people or limit that interaction, you won't do it. You won't do it. Like if you value what you get from that friendship in that family member more than you do your own mental and physical health, you won't do it. And I'm not shaming you. I'm just saying those are the facts. And if you ever struggle to understand why you can't cut someone out, that's ultimately why. It's because the benefits that you get from that relationship is higher than the pain. That also reminds me, I wanted to ask you about, I know you had a girlfriend right before me and you started dating. And I remember you telling me how there was a lot of negatives, but like she would cook for you. She would do everything for you. She had all these benefits, even though she negatively influenced your habits. So I want to know, okay, what were the positives that you got from that relationship? And then what were the negatives, so that we can kind of see that cost benefit analysis in real time?
Well, she had high energy. She was loads of fun. High energy, loads of fun. She was like me. She just loved on everybody and got to know everybody everywhere. Remember, I knew people's names, knew their stories, their families, like all the things that I love about that I do when I go out all the time. And we had that in common. So we just go into a room and we just like together we go into a room and we have just so much fun in the room every day, everywhere we go. We can make fun out of anything in the world. And I've always been that way most of my life when I wasn't a serious entrepreneur. And she was the same way. Now, the caveat to her was she can do very, very well in life. She can do anything she wants. I mean, she's one of the strongest women I've ever met, like a duplicate of me in many ways. The only challenge was, I think deep inside, she didn't really believe that she could do it.
Meaning
her thoughts. It was great being out and having fun, and the image other people, you would feel that she feels powerful and she believes in herself and that she has amazing, for lack of a better word, self-esteem. But deep inside, like just from knowing her, she didn't really believe that she could do it. And I knew that she can do and have anything she wants. She has many talents. I mean, she can sing, she can cook, she's a comedian, she's fucking funny, and funny as hell. Amazing talents, but just deep inside, you can have all these talents and all these skills, but if you don't believe and know how powerful you are, it won't be useful to you.
Okay, so we understand what her positive attributes are. So the reason you broke up with her is because she had low self-esteem?
Well, at some point, those low self esteem or those beliefs that are not powerful that come from within, as within, those things start to rub off on people around you. So other people would see the high of the person, but when you're by yourself with that person, you would catch the lows. And the lows were cool until they were no longer until they were no longer cool. I mean, the lows were cool because sometimes we both were going through lows at the time, and so we would just have fun, partying, drinking, stay out of the country. We were just traveling a lot for having loads of fun, and having that fun together was great until one day I decided I wanted to come out of that drinking, out of that Xanax and night sleeping, away from that party life. I wanted to go back into purpose and making a big difference in life and doing the same things I was doing before.
Okay, so basically, when you guys were together, you would drink, do Xanax, unhealthy habits, party, etc., correct?
Drinking was our commonality.
Okay, okay, so you guys drank together?
Drinking, party, yes.
And so did you break up with her because you wanted to stop drinking?
I could no longer handle the negative side of things when things got negative. And I had just had my heart had stopped. I just had a heart attack, about my heart challenges. Right around that time, I needed to stop drinking. I needed to stop partying. I needed to start taking care of myself. All of a sudden, it was time for me to start changing my life so that I can live. And yeah, live. Life is important. I want to live, and our habits did not align with that. I stopped, but she didn't want to stop.
Okay, so basically, you were partying together, great time. Then you had a heart attack, realized you need to improve your health. Was there ever an option of you could still be with her, but, improve your habits?
There was an option in that. I slowly tried that, but it was just too much. It was a lot of work.
What do you mean you slowly tried that? Like you tried to stop drinking, you tried to get her to stop drinking, or what did that look like?
Well, I tried to just I tried to like raise the spirits and keep it positive and get rid of the negative episodes that we were having. And because personally, I had no choice. I mean, if I was still super healthy in that time, in that moment when I was doing that, hey, I could have rolled it out a little longer, but I had no choice. It was like her or my life, I had to choose my life and feeling better because my heart kept stopping.
What was so negative that like you had to choose you couldn't have her in your life anymore?
I think there was a lot of talking back. You know what? More than anything, I think the more than anything, we lost the ride and die part of us. I can ride with almost anybody as long as you want to die with me. As long as it's just me and you against the world. No matter what goes wrong between us, I probably can ride with you to the end. But when you start to turn on me, and yeah, when anyone in your household starts to go out and turn against, yeah, when anyone in your household or in your circles turns against you and starts to down talk you to others, and this person claims they love you, you're their priority, it's probably best that you separate yourself from that person as much as possible.
Okay, so it wasn't necessarily like the drinking that really drove you away. It was more that she was talking bad about you to other people,
Yeah.
and then you felt the lack of loyalty, and for you, you value loyalty above all else.
Yeah, loyalty and that peace of mind thing. I love peace of mind, and I mean, there's a number of things that just kept happening, and there was at some point it was just like the straw that finally broke the camel's back. Man, I had to like straight arm it and part away from the situation.
Okay, got it. So, in terms of our viewers who are like trying to live a healthier lifestyle, but they are with somebody who is very loyal, but just does have like horrendously unhealthy habits, do you think that they should just stick it out and like, or actually, let me ask you in your position, would you just stick it out? So you're trying to get healthy after your heart attack.
Mhm.
You want healthier habits. Your partner's still drinking. They're still, eating like crap. They don't work out. They don't value their health, but you have their loyalty and their love. would you stick it out?
I would stick it out. And the reason why I say that now is at this point in my life, there's no situation in my life that I could not stick it out in because I'm a different person, and I'm a man that I never thought I would be able to be and see things this way, and I do things in a way that just is just it's just incredible because I do things in a way that I never thought was possible for me to do. I could stick out pretty much in any situation right now and be calm and peaceful.
So I think for you, why I'm going to guess why you say that is because I feel like you'd be able to do healthy habits regardless of whether or not your partner like is doing that or not. I think you're good at holding your own and you have a confidence of like, I can still be healthy even if my partner's not. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I actually agree.
This man right now wouldn't have walked away from any situation that I've walked away from in the past.
I disagree, but we can agree to disagree. I think if you were with your ex-wife who didn't let you be yourself, I do not think you would have stuck it out. Like, that's just my opinion, because I've seen even the smallest push, like, you're mentally checked out. Like, when we have small arguments, you, like, mentally check out, and there's a part of you that's like, should I just go on my own?
But that does not mean that I'm going to walk away.
That's true. That's true.
My point is, I would have stuck it out in any one of those situations, and I'd be myself in that situation. See, I had to walk away because I felt like I couldn't be myself. You can always be yourself.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Be yourself. Let the other person walk away.
I love that. I actually genuinely love that. And I think that's such good advice because I think a lot of people, they don't, like, you can stay in a relationship with someone who's unhealthy, do your healthy habits, let them talk shit, and let them be the one to walk away, unless you obviously want to walk away, you know? Yeah. But I totally agree because at the end of the day, you have to know that, I mean, if you give them your love and loyalty, that's their problem if they want to say something about you eating healthy and working out, and it's coming from their own insecurities, right? Yeah. And I know that's easier said than done to like just take that. Yeah. To be fair, it is easier said than done. It's really hard to be with someone who's constantly nagging on your habits and trying to get you to be unhealthy. I'm not downplaying that at all because I'm just picturing myself in that situation right now. And I'm like, yeah, that would be really tough. Yeah. So you'd have to be a strong enough person to be able to take that, which you are. Yeah. Like, Dee's a strong enough person to, let's say I'm not healthy and I'm like, don't go to the gym and don't do this, don't do that. I think he's strong enough to be like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Like, this is important to me. Yeah. You know, you either like it or you don't. I personally don't think I would be strong enough if you were trying to tell me to do things. I think I would be heavily influenced by that, whereas I would need to muster the strength to walk away. Yeah. If you're a man out there and you're listening to me, I mean, don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better. I think that goes for women too. Yeah. Like, I think that's for men and women, you know? Very true. That's another podcast, but I think a man should really just stomach more and hold more weight than the woman and be strong enough to let her express herself and to just lay it all out in his arms. And he just, he can just hug her, letting her it's going to be okay and move forward in a positive manner. That's fair. I mean, I'm not a man, so I cannot speak on that. But in today's episode, I don't think we're really giving you we're not really giving you the advice of like how to, I know I said in the beginning, so I probably should take that back, but like how to cut toxic people off. I think what we are now realizing as we talk through this is you have to value something else enough to walk away from people who are negatively impacting you. And I don't think that it's not as easy as, you cut someone off and it's done. It's like you really have to have a strong enough reason why you would do that. And again, if you valued your health enough, and I don't want to play good or bad here, right or wrong, because I don't believe that. I just genuinely think straight up, you have to value your health enough that if somebody is impacting your health in that way, it's like you value it so much where you are willing to cut it off. Or something me and Dee always talk about is, we are, and I feel like people see us and think we're a perfect couple, and we are absolutely not, which is why I kind of try to bring up some of like the things that we do go through. But we both value peace of mind more than anything else, peace of mind and harmony. And so whenever we do have arguments, we are really good at letting our ego go, because we understand that going down this route is just not supporting our ultimate highest goal of love and harmony. And so like we're willing to let go of so much of being right, of trying to win an argument, just so that we can, really nurture that harmony and love in our relationship that we know ultimately is our highest value, and that everything else just isn't important. But again, I think everything just comes down to what your values are. And until your values are strong enough to you, you will allow other people in your life to stomp on your values, because you value what you're getting from the relationship more than your values themselves. Do you have something to say?
Yeah, I did want to say something to. Thank you for sharing your views, by the way. I did want to say something to the person that's probably out there who is in a situation that they can't get out of, and you may be heavily relying on the person, and you may be taking a beating. Um, just nothing means anything except for the meaning that you give it. Just kind of remember that. So when a person's maybe being a certain way to you, it's all neutral and it doesn't mean anything. And if a person is being hard on you, it just means they're scared in some way, or they're hurting in some way. So you just know that they're scared and they're hurting in some way, because hurt people hurt other hurt people. Remember, nothing means anything except for the meaning that you give it. So look at the bright side when these things come up. Look at the good things this person is doing for you, rather than the things that you think are actually harming you or hurting you. I mean, if it's physical abuse, that's a different thing. But if we're just talking about words here, you can change words to positive. Okay.
Personally, I think physical and verbal abuse can be categorized in one and the same, but I do think that your perception on things do, they do affect how you perceive somebody's words, whether they meant it like that or not. The last story that I actually wanted to share, because I know I've kind of been like, I've been digging into Dee's life, because I think he just has like some really good, he's just really good at cutting people off. So I think for me, it's been really interesting to hear his thought process, and then when he struggled with that, why. But I just wanted to share a personal story about when I started my 30-pound weight loss journey. Actually, I had a really good friend who I would hang out with every day, and I love her so much. Unfortunately, the reason why we got so close, not the reason why, but something that we bonded over was we drank a lot together, and we ate a lot of pizza rolls together, and just like a lot of crap. And we would watch TV and shows, and that's what we bonded over. So when I started losing weight, I stopped drinking, I stopped eating like crap, and what our friendship was founded upon no longer existed. And so it was really painful, because I had to say goodbye to that friendship, at least the friendship that we built together, because at that point my weight loss goals were more important to me. And again, I'm not somebody who says this is right or wrong, good or bad. It just is what it is. And so that was just an example of when your goals are important to you, you will do what you need to do to get there. And perhaps for you, your family and friendships are so important to you that you are willing to sacrifice your health. And again, I'm not saying that's neither good nor bad. I think it's just important to understand what the facts are, how things are, why you're doing what you're doing. Because when you have that picture of why you're doing what you're doing, it gives you more information of, okay, now I'm consciously making this decision. Do I want to continue making this decision, or am I not happy with my choices and I actually would rather value something else? So I think understanding why we're doing what we're doing is really important, so then we can make a decision of whether we want to continue, using that reason or making that decision, or if we want to make a change. And I know before I wanted to lose weight, what was more important to me was having company and not being lonely. But once I shifted my priorities of I need to get healthy and feel good and not be hungover every day and just hate myself, I was willing to make the sacrifices. As painful as it was, I was willing to make those sacrifices. And so ultimately, that's how it's going to happen for you, of being able to cut off or just limit interaction with friends and family that don't help support your goals. Your goals have to be important enough. And if you are struggling to cut those people out, it really just means your goals are not yet your priority, and that's okay. Again, it's just understanding why we're doing what we're doing. So I just wanted to end with that story, because I think I've been, again, really digging into Dee's life. And I know you might be like, damn, you're really pressing into him. But we did discuss this beforehand, that we agreed on that we were going to do that. So I did have his permission to push into his life, if you were wondering. Is there anything you want to leave our viewers and listeners before we go?
Yeah, I just want to say in all situations, focus on the light. When things go wrong, think, what's great about this? What's wonderful about this? Look at the good side of everything, and you'll be okay.
I love that. As somebody who is a worrier and a stressor, it's something that you remind me of every day. I feel like it's so easy for me to fall into negative thinking. And I do sometimes feel like it kind of sounds like fluff, where it's like, think about the positive. Mm-hmm. But genuinely, it does make a difference. Yeah. So if you're like me and you're like, that's easy for you to say, it really does make a difference. You do have to rewire your thinking, but I could not agree more.
To say that again one more time, there are two questions. What's wrong with this? And what's right about this? What's right about this will get you heading down the right path.
Very true. Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you guys so much for being here and for supporting us and for listening. And we will see you guys in our next episode. Bye.
Bye, guys. Take care.